Welcome, hope you're doing well. This is the last video of this mini-series. If you don't know what this is, I basically take my larger ranking every weapon plus fun fact video, and then I edit it down into specific classes rather than just being an amalgamation of all of them. This way you can see your favorite weapons of your favorite classes rather than having to sit through the entire thing. Makes everything a little bit more digestible. Side note, the original videos are actually from January, and my style has changed just a little bit, so sorry in advance. If you've seen the original video, you do not have to watch this one unless you want to. I would appreciate it if you did. Anyway, let's get into this. The Ambassador, added May 21st, 2009. From a terrible Snai weapon, to just alright, to do we have the Ambassador? That's what I wrote in the original video. Whatever that means. Anyway, in the original video I put this in the C tier because it's pretty average. You know, it's good. But ever since the nerf and the Demoman Inferno update, it hasn't been the same. But this one actually has a very interesting piece of trivia, and a lot of people don't know this. So, unless you were obviously around at the time. On release, this weapon had no fall off, but it only mini crit on headshot. And this was with the damage penalty in general, so it did barely any extra damage. This was the update that added mini crits to begin with, so it kind of made sense. You know, the Girardi got the ability to mini crit, the Ambassador got the ability to mini crit, but they realized, man, this weapon kind of sucks. Not too long afterwards, it was changed to critting on headshot. And then obviously in the Demoman Inferno update, they made it actually have fall off, which made the weapon fall off, right? Big Earner, added June 23rd, 2012. While great spy players may be able to use this weapon to chain stab practically the entire team, for the average player, this weapon is just a knife with a 25 health penalty. So if you're like me, and you're just kind of whatever at spy, this weapon's not going to be very good. Though if you are a spy main, you may be able to get a lot more use out of this, and you might rank this a lot higher. It's nice for the slight speed boost, but other than that, for the most part, this weapon is just kind of okay, so I put this in the C tier. It is a very high C, probably the highest C out of all of the C tier, but the weapon's just kind of whatever. Though, for a little piece of trivia, on release, the Big Earner did not have the 3-second speed boost, only granting you some cloak back on a successful kill. This means this weapon was usually placed in the bin before the stat was added. If any of you played during that time, yeah, this was not very good. It gave you about 30% cloak back, which you got even more from just the weapon dropping on the ground. So this weapon was complete garbage before the 3-second speed boost was added. The Cloaked Dagger, May 21st, 2009. It's a great Invis Watch for spy players like myself who aren't very good at traversing the map without being invisible. And it's really good if you're willing to play extremely slow, so you can just hide in a corner and wait for somebody to come by you. Though it's not very good for spies who are, you know, actually good at the game, but it is a pretty good option for new players. B tier. Trivia. There is very little to say about this weapon. The only unique thing is the fact that when this weapon came out, you could not pick up ammo packs to replenish cloak at all, instead having to wait for it to charge back up on its own. This was changed to not only being able to pick up ammo while invisible, and you only receive 65% of what the normal Invis Watch receives. The Conyers Kunai, added March 10th, 2011. You either love this weapon or you just can't get it to work. If you're a good spy player, unlike me, you'll probably run this knife 9 out of 10 times. The overheal gain on backstab is phenomenal. This health return on kill can actually allow the spy to escape with some health left after performing a stab. If you're bad, it's just a knife with a 55 health penalty. If you're good, the possibilities are endless. A tier. Trivia. Once again, there's very little on this weapon. Though, just so there's something, it originally had a 65 health penalty rather than 55, giving this spy a total of 60 health rather than the current 70. It also allowed for up to 195 overheal, rather than the 205 that we have now, which technically means that you couldn't survive a melee critical hit, which now you can. Deadringer, added May 21st, 2009. It was once one of the most overpowered items in Team Fortress 2, though over the years it has had many reworks and has been reworked a plethora of times. Buffs, nerfs, it's gone through it all. Though in its current state, it's still a very good watch to run, and it can definitely get you out of some sticky situations. high B tier. Trivia. Not too much interesting on this weapon. However, this weapon on release had a damage resistance so high that it could actually allow you to survive a backstab. The Diamondback. No, not that Diamondback, this Diamondback. Added August 18th, 2011. If you know TF2, you know the absolute monstrosity this weapon is. Crits for just doing what spies do. It's kind of ridiculous. In addition, if disguised, no one can see that you're storing crits, meaning you could see a friendly medic 1 second and get double tapped for 102 damage apiece in the blink of an eye. This weapon is absolutely busted. S tier. Trivia. Once upon a time, the Diamondback was mediocre at best. Actually, in some situations, it was trash. As you likely know, the Diamondback stores crits on backstab and sap buildings. However, until 2013, the Diamondback only granted you crits for sap buildings. This meant if there was no engineer on the other team, you just had a stock revolver that did less damage and couldn't random crit. The Enforcer, added June 23rd, 2011. A fall from grace. At one time, this was one of the best spy weapons to use. Several nerfs later, this weapon is a complete joke. Well, it was somewhat revived with a niche ability to pierce certain resistances, such as the Fist of Steel resistance and Spy's passive cloak resistance. But even with this weapon is still a D tier weapon. Trivia. Like I stated before, this weapon used to be arguably the best revolver. The 20% damage while disguised stat used to be a flat 20% damage bonus. It also had the ability to randomly crit, meaning you could be fighting with a sniper or scout with your revolver and accidentally one-tap them with a 144 damage shot. Soon after, this was changed to a 20% damage bonus while undisguised, and then no random crit stat was added. It was still a really good weapon, even with these stats added. It was still a go-to. Then they killed it by changing the 20% damage while undisguised to a 20% damage while disguised. Now you may see the problem with this. Well, as soon as you fire, you automatically lose your disguise. This meant that you could only use one shot with a 20% damage bonus. That's it. Now you just had a worse revolver. It was useless. They tried to butter us up a little bit with the damage piercing stat, which was bugged all hell on launch, not working for half the weapon. It still doesn't properly work today. But I've spent too long on this weapon. Let's move on. The Invis Watch, added October 10th, 2007 with the release of the game. I mean, what is there really to say? It's a nice item. The best all-around spy watch. You can't really go wrong with it. B tier. Trivia. There was really nothing on the spy watch, but in the gunmetal update of 2015, all spy Invis watches received 20% less damage from all damage sources and reduced debuff duration while cloaked. The Knife, released with the game on October 10th, 2007. The Knife is a pick for most spies, new and old. The Knife is just a melee you cannot go wrong with. It's fun to use, and it doesn't have any crippling downsides, because it's stock. B tier. Trivia. If you have not seen the TF2 2007 versus now video, I highly recommend you go watch that after this video, as that's where I actually got the first fact from. However, here are a few interesting facts for it. Before the massive overhaul of the TF2's lighting and shaders, which was around 2008, the Knife appeared to be a bit longer and a bit larger in general. Not just the blade, but the base as well. As you can see in the photo I put on screen, the base of the Knife is pictured below the bottom of the palm, whereas now it sits comfortably inside the spy's hand. And secondly, not specific to the stock butterfly knife, but I thought I'd mention it here, in February of 2009, for about 3 to 4 months or so, the radius was reduced to 160 degrees for a backstab. This was changed quickly and reverted back to the previous 180 degrees, which it is now. The Lron J, Deadringer, added September 30th, 2010. The Lron J is a fine revolver. It has great utility, and because you're a spy and you're probably not using the revolver all that much, and you have your knife out 90% of the time anyway, the damage penalty on this thing has very little effect. It is a very good revolver. B tier. Trivia. The main draw of the weapon is the plus 40% additional cloak duration when equipped, though it didn't actually come out with this stat, only the secondary stat that everybody forgets about. Yeah. On release, the main draw of it was the plus 15% cloak back on hit. It was not all that good. Or not picked often. But the 40% cloak duration breathed life back into this little guy. The Red Tape Recorder, added August 2nd, 2012. Spy is only other Sapper option, and it kinda sucks. The Sapper is pretty much better in every way. The most the Sapper will do is annoy the engineer a little bit. D tier. Trivia. Common knowledge at this point. When the Red Tape Recorder is slowed down significantly, a voice can be heard saying, "Make some noise." Kinda odd. 2. The Red Tape Recorder used to break down buildings at 1.6 seconds, which meant as long as it was placed on a building, and a Pyro with the homewrecker wasn't nearby, it was guaranteed to level down the building. This was changed to 3 seconds the next day. The Revolver, added October 10th, 2007, with the release of the game. Like most stock weapons, the Revolver is just good. I hate to use that word so much, but it truly does encompass the vast majority of TF2 weapons. The Revolver does what it needs to do, deal some damage if the knife is no longer an option. 40 base damage with a ramp up to 60. Not bad for its intended purpose. High C tier. Trivia. The Revolver, and revolvers as a whole, used to have a different reload animation. Rather than slinging the weapon to the side, Spy would throw it up directly into his face, blocking vision. 2. The Revolver's cylinder used to spin. 3. Early videos depict Spy with the Revolver show more of a wood style kind of finish to it, rather than the white ivory style hand grip the Revolver has now. 4. The Revolver used to have a slightly different kill icon. Very slight, but yeah, you can see it. 5. At one point before the game was released, the Spy had the ability to reload the Revolver while cloaked. Not shoot, just reload. The Sapper, added October 10th, 2007. Spy's other Sapper, the default one. The Sapper is just baseline for Spy. Without it, he wouldn't really be Spy. It works, does what it's supposed to, though unless the Engie's dead, it's not all that effective, other than maybe shutting down the building for a second, which I guess could help your team move in on it. B tier. Trivia. 1. Spy's Revolver used to have a 66% damage penalty against SAP buildings. This was lowered to 33% in gunmetal. 2. After removing a Sapper from a sentry gun, there's now a 0.5 second delay before the sentry is active again, allowing the Spy some time to react. Originally, the sentry gun would be active directly after the Sapper was destroyed. So basically, as soon as the Sapper was destroyed, the sentry gun could target the Spy, which often left the Spy, dead. 3. The Sapper used to spark and was broken off onto the ground when destroyed, whereas now, in current day, it simply just disappears. The Spycicle, added December 15th, 2011. The Spycicle is not a bad melee. The Icicle is good for countering Pyros, which we know can be a real pain. It isn't technically exclusively for countering Pyros, but there's not many other things that can light you on fire. That's what most of the upsides do. But it's still a good knife overall. It does its job well. A tier. Trivia. Currently, the Spycicle offers 1 second of immunity to fire after being touched, and 10 seconds of afterburn immunity, though it originally was 2 seconds of fire immunity, period. 2. The Spycicle used to be a silent killer for some reason, meaning it didn't pop up in the enemy's kill feed. The Uror Eternal Reward actually still works this way. And last, the Spycicle used to recharge naturally. It had to. Now it can be shortened by picking up ammo packs. I guess there's ice trays in it or something, I have no idea. The Uror Eternal Reward, added September 30th, 2010. The Uror Eternal Reward is an interesting case. It isn't necessarily bad, but it's nearly pointless. The whole weapon revolves around disguising as a person you recently killed. The problem is it isn't 2007 anymore. People don't often fall for disguises, and either way, spy checking is a major part of the game and has no cost to the person doing the spy checking. The one feature that is useful with the Uror Eternal Reward, however, is the silent killer attribute. Often spies are caught because the person they just killed made a loud noise, causing everyone to turn around. And even if they personally didn't hear the loud noise, they would be able to see the body fall to the ground, or look up at the kill feed and saw that a spy just killed somebody near them. The silent killer attribute removes these issues, so it can make chain stabbing a little bit easier if you're sneaky. Not bad, but not great. C tier. Trivia. Aladdin. You probably all heard this fact, but I'm going to regurgitate it anyway, because if I didn't include it, it'd just be doing this weapon a disservice. The name of the knife is a reference to the scene in the 1992 film Aladdin, where Jafar fools Aladdin with the disguise and then attempts to murder him with the dagger that Jafar refers to as your eternal reward.
What are you doing? Giving you your reward.
Your eternal reward.
Before the item was released, Robin Walker joked that the Your Eternal Reward's drawback would be that it couldn't face stab. Also from the wiki. If you aren't aware, a face stab is an exploit/bug with how TF2 works. Normally a backstab is required to instantly kill someone, so you have to be in the back portion of the 180 degrees out of the 360, if that makes any sense. Basically, you have to be in the back portion of them. Though there is a chance that if the server and client side don't match up, it could appear that you stab someone from the front yet get rewarded with a backstab. And the last piece of trivia for this video. This weapon has been unchanged besides some bug fixes for 7 years, until it was finally given some new updates in 2017 during the Jungle Inferno update. The Your Eternal Reward's original downside was that you couldn't disguise whatsoever. Though this was changed to non-kill disguises require a full cloak meter, and it would consume the full cloak meter. However, if you still got a backstab, disguises were free. That didn't change. They also added an increased cloak drain of 33%, which I can remember being bugged at one point, but it never was statistically changed.